So the longer you've been taking photographs, the more rules that you've probably learned. And here's the trouble, 7 of them might actually be making you a worse photographer. The longer you do photography, well, the more nuggets of advice that you pick up along the way, the more videos you watch, and the more articles that you read. And when you're starting out, all of that's absolutely fantastic, but there comes a point where if you follow all of these pearls of wisdom to the letter, you will be definitely holding yourself back. So in rapid fire style, or as rapid fire as I can manage, let's go through the 7 main culprits that might be holding you back. Okay, so let's kick off with an easy one, and that is that you need to shoot in manual mode. You see, there is a common misconception that if you shoot in anything other than manual mode, then you're not a proper photographer. But trust me, if you speak to a great percentage of professional photographers, you'll find that they will shoot in other modes such as aperture priority or shutter priority, and they only use manual when they absolutely need to. And here are the reasons why shooting in manual is sometimes a bad idea. Whilst you can get quick at adapting to the scenes in front of you, when you're in control of aperture, ISO and the shutter speed, it will definitely slow you down. And that's why I shoot 80% of the time in aperture priority mode. And all I have to do is choose my aperture from a creative point of view, switch on the auto ISO, and then I choose my composition and get the shot. It removes a lot of the decision making process for me, and just to be on the safe side, I set my slow shutter speed to be 1/250, so that at least that way I know I've got a fairly sharp image. The auto ISO will handle the exposure, and my choice of aperture will dictate the style. And if you haven't tried this, then I really do recommend doing it, because it will free up time, it will make you enjoy the process more, and as a result of that, you might actually just go out with your camera that little bit more. Rule number 2 is a rule that I heard over and over, and I still do, and that is you absolutely must keep your ISO at 100. Otherwise, you'll end up with a noisy photograph that you just can't use. Now with today's cameras, this is absolute nonsense, and I sometimes find myself shooting with perfectly usable images at 6400 and at a push 12800. And if I do end up with quite a noisy image, most editing software these days has inbuilt noise reduction that makes the image absolutely perfectly usable. So think about this, is it worth having a clean image of a shot that you missed, or is it worth having a bit of noise in an image that's going to make someone think, that's a great photograph? We need to stop panicking about low ISO and just let our cameras do their job. Number 3 is that you should never really use the crop tool, especially heavy-handedly. A lot of photographers take a very purist approach to their work, and that's absolutely fine, and a phrase you'll hear a lot is, get it right in camera. And that's great if you've got your camera on a tripod and you've got a couple of hours to take your time and make sure your composition is absolutely spot on. But if you're handheld and you're dealing with wildlife, moving subjects, or you simply make a mistake, you might get home and find something distracting on the edge of the frame, and in that situation, I absolutely crop away to my heart's content. But cropping isn't just about fixing mistakes. Sometimes you look at an image afterwards and realise that there's actually a much better composition sitting inside the photograph that you originally took. Obviously you have to bear in mind the megapixels of your camera. With my Canon R5, I've got a 45 megapixel sensor, which gives me plenty of scope to crop in without losing a huge amount of image quality. Yours might be slightly less than that, but chances are you've still got sufficient scope to crop into your image and maybe make it better. At the end of the day, nobody looking at the finished photograph knows what was outside of that crop. If cropping makes the image better, then do it. The more you pay for something, the better it's got to be, right? Well, to a certain degree, this might be true, in that if you spend thousands of pounds, you'll get a great piece of glass, and maybe a lens that's got silent, fast autofocus. But does it help you take a better picture? The images you're looking at just now were taken on a £200 Plastic Fantastic Nifty 50. And yes, they're not as sharp as the photographs I get with my £2,000 20-40-70mm lens. But these are some of my favourite photographs from a trip to Cyprus from a couple of years ago. And if you're using them on social media or looking at them on your computer, then I would argue that they're more than good enough. And there's an argument to be made that a slightly softer image can actually give a more cinematic feel to your photograph. So we need to stop blaming our lenses for poor photographs. We have to focus on making sure our composition is great and that we've got our camera set up to take as sharp a photograph as possible. And it just so happens that that's a nice time for a perfect segue into reminding you that I've written 2 books on those very subjects: composition and how to take sharp photographs. If you really want to up your game in both of these disciplines, I'd recommend having a look at them because they cover everything that you need to know about getting a great composition and making sure that it's nice and sharp. The link is in the description, and this is truly the last week of the discount for quite some time. Okay, so I'm not going to deny it. My absolute favourite time to shoot with my camera is during golden hour, whether that's in the morning or whether it's at sunset. And it does produce some phenomenal images. The golden light coming in from the sides, the elongated shadows, just that natural warmth is something incredibly pleasing, to my eye at least. But here's the thing, especially living in Scotland, golden hour often ends up with clouds all over the horizon, flat skies and lifeless photographs. And that is the joy of being a landscape photographer. You have to be there for the opportunity when it does eventually kick off. But if we're honest with ourselves, about 80 to 90% of the time, it doesn't do what we hope it would. So therefore, if that's the only time that we choose to go out with our cameras, we're limiting the amount of good photographs that we can get simply by relying on earth-shattering light assisting our photographs. Remember, you can use your camera at any time of the day, and all you have to do is adapt to the light that you have, whether it's flat, grey, overcast, or bright, stark sunshine. These photographs, which are amongst my favourites, were taken nowhere near golden hour, and had I stuck to that rule that you should only shoot in that window, then I would have missed them, and they wouldn't have made it into my portfolio. So the best time to go out with your camera? Well, that's now. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you'll know that this is something that I'm passionate about. When I first learned photography, I learned that all your landscape photographs should be pin sharp from front to back, and that you should use an aperture of between f8 and f11. In most instances, if you're taking landscape photographs. And this is great advice if that's exactly what you're intending to do, to have a nice landscape and it's sharp all the way through. But as I mentioned in an earlier chapter, I shoot in aperture priority mode, and I like to shoot as wide open as possible, sometimes between f2.8 and f4, even when I'm shooting landscapes. I like to bring in foreground and make sure it's nice and soft, and in certain instances make sure that the background's soft, because that gives a really nice depth to your image. It draws focus to your subject, and in my opinion at least, it's a more interesting photograph to look at. It really does draw you in. So yeah, aperture is there to help you control your depth of field, but you have to ask yourself, do I really want everything to be sharp? And touching upon another theme, you can shoot at f16 and f22, and then there's this fear that diffraction's going to come in and it's going to wreck all your images. And yes, they do start to get a little bit softer at that end of the aperture range, but as we've already said, sometimes a softer image gives a feeling that you might be trying to convey a more cinematic look. Think about it this way, if shooting at f2.8 or f22 was completely useless, why would your lens even let you do it? Don't be scared to experiment and find out what it is that you like, because that's much more important than what's technically correct. I've left this one to the very end because it's going to be a very personal issue for each photographer. Some photographers like a documentary style to their images, and some like a more dramatic and fantastic look to their images. And I would like to think that I fall somewhere in the middle. When it comes to editing, I definitely favour a more saturated look. I will use things like the removal tools if something is distracting in an image, and I will use an absolute ton of masks to help bring out the light and to help shape the light in the image so that I can draw your attention to what it is that I want you to look at. So don't be afraid to spend a good amount of time on a photograph that you absolutely love, and do to it whatever you think it is that's necessary to express what it was about the photograph that made you take it in the first place. Now with that comes a couple of caveats. Whilst I favour a slightly more saturated image than some other photographers, if you do go overboard on this, it can start to look very amateurish. So remember, there's nothing wrong with bringing out the colour, just don't overdo it. And a great way to check that is when you think you've got the photograph absolutely spot on, it's right where you want it, go away for half an hour, make a cup of coffee, or plan your next photography trip, and then come back and look at your image. If it doesn't stand out as being wildly oversaturated, then good, you've done a good job. But if it does, then maybe it's time to rein it in a little bit. Remember, photography is about expressing how you see the world. It's not worrying about how everybody else thinks you should see it. Understandably, that might be different if you're entering competitions or you're a documentary style photographer. But for me, this is a creative pursuit, and I will always edit my images until they make me happy. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I will see you in the next one.